So hi everyone, thank you for listening and interest in our work. I'm Qinrun. This is my first time for me at Beihai, and I'm very happy and honored to be here with you. My topic is about a remote attack surface on smartphones. And in this topic, you will see several serious vulnerabilities and a wonderful one-click RCE implementation detail. And please don't walk away. We have prepared an awesome video demo in the end. And about us, Haikuo and Fan Yang are the senior security researchers at Singular Security Lab, and they contribute a lot in this work. And they have many species like Mosaic and Black Hat Asia and USA. And I'm Qinrun, 23 years old, the CS PhD student at Boulder. My research mainly focuses on Windows security and exploitation development. And in our agenda, I will start by introducing a remote attack surface of video call. Our target is Sec Video Engine service, and I will introduce its function and the reason why we research it. During our research, we discovered several vulnerabilities, and we successfully exploited them and achieved remote code execution on the victim's phone. And finally, I will show the video demo of the exploit. And imagine this scenario: a victim receives a video call as soon as he or she connects, and hacker takes over the phone. We have seen scenes like this in the movies, but these attacks do happen in the real world. Previously, much attention was given to attack surface of FaceTime, WhatsApp, Telegram, and WebRTC. These instant messaging apps has been a major focus of hacker groups, and there have been many reports and research topics about attacks on them. Recently, and there have been many news about spyware using iMessage and WhatsApp to monitor phone users. However, there's a remote attack surface on Android platform that has not received much attention until now, and that is carrier-based video calling. Android 9 introduced a new subsystem API interface called IMS service to enable IP multimedia subsystem. The specific implementation will be provided by carrier or the vendor. So in this new feature, we found some critical vulnerabilities in the Samsung's Sec Video Engine service, and these vulnerabilities has likely existed for a long time. Exploiting them allows attackers to achieve one-click RCE. Then let me introduce what is this service and why we put our effort on it. So what is Sec Video Engine service? This service is a crucial system application integrated into Samsung's Android phones, and it is responsible for video decoding and encoding. And second, why we research this service? This service has the following features. The first, it runs on high privilege, and it listens ports on 0.0.0.0, and this can be accessed from remote directly. It is installed and runs by default on the Samsung phones, and our one-click RCE exploit can work only if the phone has a SIM card inserted. So in contrast, there's no need to register an account like iMessage or WhatsApp to launch the attack. Its triggering condition is not complex. All an attacker needs to know target a victim is the phone number. And then let us learn some details about the features. This service process runs on system. The highest privilege in user space is also on camera, network, storage, SMS, microphone, contacts, and other permissions. These two screenshots show that the service process is listening ports on the IP. The screenshot on the top shows the port listening status of COM-SEC MS service. It is responsible for resolving signaling, and it keeps listening. The screenshot below shows the port listening status of after the video call connection is established. And the COM-SEC SVE is responsible for resolving audio and video packet. After knowing these two processes, let's get to learn some basic knowledge of this service architecture. This picture shows how the two phones communicate over this architecture through carrier network. And the difference, carrier handles the two processes, IM service and SVE. So interaction between IM service is mainly signaling. The signaling is transmitted through the carrier network, and the carrier network will parse and reorganize the signaling message and forward it to the offset. And the transmission between SVE are mainly video messages and video control messages. These messages are transmitted through the carrier network, but the carrier network only forwards them directly. Next, let me introduce the procedure of MS service signaling and video call establishing. So this is the process of MS service signaling interaction. So before connecting on the top right, top left, the sender sends a PRACK message, and the SIP server sends the invite to the receiver. Then the receiver rings, and you then use the update to interact and establish a connection. After this, then can complete the establishment of a video call connection. After the video call connection is established, SV process will carry out the flow as shown in the figure. So on the left, first start channel, then start connection as SV start transport, starts to collect the packets from the remote. After that, it will call start receive, which is responsible for processing RTP packet in RTP-CB function, and RTCP packet in RTCP-CB function. So resolving RTP and RTCP packets is the attack surface we have focused on. This graph illustrates the basic structures of the two packets, and this is where our vulnerabilities came from. So listed three CVEs are used for developing exploitation this time. All the latest Samsung phones are affected by the CVE. But don't be worried, currently they are all fixed, and the commercial patches were released in July. I will introduce each of them. So here's the trigger scenario of the first CVE. After the video call connection is established, the attacker sends a malicious APP RTCP packet, which can trigger heap overflow in the victim's phone. This out-of-bound write can write at most hex FF bytes. Each one is the start of our research, typical heap overflow. The screenshot on the left shows the result of decompiled parsed RTCP APP packet function. And pay attention to the rectangle. It's responsible for resolving RTCP APP packets from remote. So variable APP data length indicates the length of the data from the remote can be set to hex FF at most. However, the buffer APP data's buff, its size is hex 1,000 bytes, resulting in a large-scale out-of-bound write. But in actual, data buffer length in the RTCP packets is 1560 bytes. So we can only control the 536 of out-of-bound write data. And look at the figure on the right. The red color zone indicates the scenario of the heap overflow. And remember, the APP data buffer starts from the 2456. It is worth remembering to learn about our exploitation. Here we come to issue 2. TMBR and TMMBN respectively indicates temporary maximum media stream bit rate, request, and notification. An attacker can trigger an out-of-bound read by sending a malicious TMBR package after the video call connection is established. Then the victim phone will reply with a TMMBN package containing the out-of-bound read data to the attacker. And issue 2 is the only information leak vulnerability we found in our research. It helps us to bypass the ASLR, and it is a 4-byte range out-of-bound read. The only condition to enter this function is the length of RTCP packet equals to 8. So let the length to be 8. The variable v9 to 12 represents the out-of-bound read data. And out-of-bound read data is then calculated and stored to the RTCP object receive plus 1192, 1196, and 1200 separately. So this procedure extends 4 bytes to 12 bytes. And there's some info loss while calculating, but actual all data can be restored through a reverse calculation. So after knowing the function tmbr packet, let's see the tmbn packet function as shown on the left. So this function will assemble the out-of-bound rate data in an RTCP tmbn message and send it to the outside, which is the attacker, causing remote information leak. And on the right, this is the reverse calculation, restores 4 bytes of data from 12 bytes. And this picture shows the process of information leak in more detail. And after packet crafting, the tmbr packet can be anywhere within RTCP packet buffer in the red color zone. Then the 4 bytes just following the tmbr packet will be leaked. So the 8 bytes in the figure indicates a pointer, which I will introduce later. And this is the scenario of triggering issue 3. After video call connection is established, the attacker can send RTCP packet with 1600 bytes. This packet will then trigger heap overflow vulnerability, allowing a maximum out-of-bounds write of 40 bytes. And issue 3 is the most important part of our exploitation. Using it, we realize the control of the PC register. This vulnerability is quite weird because it receives a maximum length of 1600 bytes when receiving messages, and in the following checking of the length is also to check whether the length of the received message is more than 1600 bytes or not. It seems that there's no problem, but in fact, the length of the buffer used for receiving RTCP message is not 1600 bytes, but 15 and 60 bytes. It's worth to mention that there's a pointer right after the RTCP packet buffer, and this pointer is frequently used. So sending a 1600 bytes RTCP packet will overflow this pointer, and cautiously overwriting can cause a crash. And the 3 vulnerabilities used in development exploitation has been introduced, so let's begin our journey of developing the exploitation. Let's quickly review the 3 primitives we have. We have 2 write and 1 read. And what deserves attention is each time of sending a packet can trigger one of these primitives. So in other words, we can trigger these 3 primitives infinitely as long as the video connection remains active. All of these primitives are related to the data structure C transport manager, as shown right below the primitive titles. So our next step is to get to learn about this object. Object C transport manager is one of the fields in C control manager. And in the construct function of C control manager, as shown on the top right, it initializes spatially continuous 7 C transport manager. And as shown on the left memory layout, each C transport manager object corresponds to a channel. But the video call only uses the first channel. So in other words, only the first C transport manager object is used and assigned values, while other objects remain in their initial status. And through the figure on the left, which represents the write primitive B, the 40 bytes out-of-bound writes after the RTCP packet buffer in the red color zone. And there's a pointer with the variable name transport listener just locates in this out-of-bound write area. Object call pointer call functions through this pointer, and the steps of calling functions through this pointer are shown on the lower right. And this process of addressing reminds me of the virtual table in C++. And one of the calls is Q as control handler. It is invoked every time the program receives a RTCP packet for data processing. So have the knowledge of each primitive's ability and the object where a vulnerability happens. We start our journey of controlling the PC register. although the range can be written by primitive A is quite large, only 536 bytes are under our control. So there indeed have a few pointers, but we still cannot find a method to directly affect the PC register. And in contrast, even though the write primitive B can only control 40 bytes each time, luckily we have the pointer transport listener along its dereference path eventually points to a function, allowing us to control the PC register. So based on the abilities we have so far, we decided to verify that we can control the PC through this write primitive B. We plan to control the overflow pointer transport listener, whose offset is 8456, to point to a memory region we can control. So in our case, it's the RTCP packet buffer. And according to the origin invoke chain, we will place the fake invoke chain in the controlled memory. So the final effect is when the function call happens, actually our place data and function works. So for example, look at the lower right. The PC is set to that beef. So here comes the first challenge. We need to know the address of C transport manager object. We need to find ourselves. And go on to say, our ultimate goal is to hijacking control flow to system function in libc and control the first argument, the register x0. Then we can achieve arbitrary code execution through the system function, and further get shell or steal sensitive data like pictures or contexts. So in this part, I will introduce how to achieve remote information leak in our case. And this step is often the most difficult part of achieving RCE. So our initial plan was as follows. So first, find ourselves, find the memory address of the vulnerable structure to locate our shellcode. And next, we plan to locate the address of the libc shared object, which would give us the address of the system function. Then we would control the PC register to jump to this system function. However, our three primitives could not directly achieve the second goal. Our primitives are directly related to the libsamsung video engine library. So we can first obtain the base address of libsamsung video engine and use the gadgets within it to do more things. And finally, by finding an arbitrary shared object base address, we can use gadgets to achieve remote information leak of any address we want. This allows us to locate the address of libc system and then control the PC. And this page is a roadmap of our building our exploitation, and it will appear many times in the following to keep you updated. So first step, I will introduce how we find ourselves, and that is the vulnerable object. And remember, we have an out-of-bound read primitive. Its OB read range is 4 bytes. So by using this primitive twice, we can leak 8 bytes data, which is the full length of a pointer. After leaking the real value of the pointer at 8456, which points to the control manager plus 8, we can get the start address of this object, control manager, and by simply minus 8. And then all fused address in the two objects are known to us. And this page shows the process of the information leak in high level. The attacker sends a TMMBR packet to trigger an OB read twice, and the victim responds with 4 bytes each time in the TMMBN packet. So at this stage, we have got ourselves. So next step is to find the shared library address. Since we want to know the address of the library, obviously we need to leak the value of a function pointer. We only found one function pointer in C transport manager object, that is the callback event. And its relative offset to C transport object is 2136. Note in any the 3 primitives controlled regions. And luckily, we still have the write primitive A. Its original purpose is to copy data start from RTCP buffer to APP data buffer. In other words, let data from the RTCP packet move forward, like the memory elevator, and we could control the copy length from 0 to hex FF. And then we call the memory layout of C control manager and C transport manager. 7 C transport manager objects are placed spatially and continuously within C control manager. By using this memory elevator, we can move data from the second C transport manager object into the first one. And we can call primitive A as a memory elevator because it can move data more than once. Not only we can move the data from the second C transport manager to the first, but we can also move the data from the third, the fourth, and so on into the first. Then we have the solution to leak function pointer callback event. We will move this function pointer from the second, third C transport manager into the first one's RTCP packet buffer and use respond TMMBN packet previously used for leaking object address to leak this function pointer value this time. But there's 2 challenges we must face. The first one, will the memory shift of write primitive A will cause a program crash. And second one, can the desired function pointer callback event will be moved exactly to the RTCP packet buffer. And let's look at the first challenge. And there's no doubt that the direct memory shift will cause a crash. So let's check what important pointers are used in the APP data buffer. And after our analysis, we found 5 important pointers as shown on the right. The list head and tail is the number of double linked list retransmission request object list. And pointer 1 points to the RTP buffer. Pointer 2 points to the RTCP buffer. And pointer 3 points to the C transport manager object -8. And as shown on the left, pointers in the right zone is under our control. In other words, the list head, list tail, pointer 1 can be repaired after overwriting happens. So let's see how the 3 pointers get used. List head and list tail are the head and tail pointers of double linked list, which are responsible for the RTP message request retransmission. So we must keep the point to the right place. In this case, they should both point to the C transport manager plus 3560, as we have already known the address of the C transport manager. So fixing these 2 pointers is not a problem. And go on to say, corrupting pointer 1 and pointer 2 has no effect because they will be laterally assigned to the correct value. As for the pointer 3, if it is set to the 0, it won't be used. So although we cannot control the overwriting value, but they come from the unused C transport manager objects, whose most values are 0. And in our test, this pointer was indeed overwritten with 0. So far, we have solved the first challenge. After using the primitive A's memory shift, the program will not crash. This page shows how memory elevator works. The first move lets the callback event pointer from the second object to move into the first one, and lets the pointer from the third object to move into the second one. And the second shift moves the callback pointer from the third object forward again. I list the times and distance of the shifts in the table on the right. Focus on the number of most column, the center one. The first pointer is out of our control. And the second pointer, after 1 shift, it moves out of the buffer. And the third pointer, after 3 times of shift, moves into the buffer. So do the fourth and the fifth one. We took a pointer used the fewest times of the shifts as our target. That is the third one. And similar to leaking ourselves, we can use 2 response packets, TMMBN, to send the 8-byte pointer to us. Then we can calculate the address of the libsamsung video engine library since functions has a fixed relative offset. At this point, all function addresses in this library are known to us. Now we have obtained our own address and the address of the current library. Our next step is to find the address of the libc library, or the address of any SO library we want to. And only knowing the address of libsensing video engine is not enough to achieve our goal. We need more memory info, so we must find a method to leak any address we want. It would be great if we could directly call the send-to-like function and control the buffer pointer. It's clear to us we can control the PC if we can make the PC jump to a remote packet sending function and control its parameters. We can achieve the goal of leaking any memory address. After some reverse engineering work, we found a function called RTP, send RTP packet in librtp library. Since it is not in libsamsung video engine, we cannot call it directly. However, this function is called by libsamsung video engine, so we can try to guess its PLT GOT table and calling location of this function in libsamsung video engine. So based on the work we have done, we can set the PC register to any value. Our initial plan was to simply replace our random test value that beef with the address we want to jump to. Such as the PLT table or the call set of RTP send RTP packet. However, we were stopped by the ARM CFI. The CFI enables a situation where it calls different Samsung phones. In our research, we found that models like the Samsung S22, S23, and Note 10 Plus have CFI enabled. And it is obvious that exploiting versions without CFI is much easier. But we will continue to exploit the more difficult CFI-enabled versions. And we can determine whether CFI is enabled by checking the instructions like the first and the end, like PACISP and AUTISP. CFI works by checking whether the target instruction of an indirect jump is a valid instruction. And fortunately, the location where the indirect call happened involves a 3-step jump, or dereference, allowing us to use a carefully arranged memory layout to direct the PC to the location of RTP send RTP packet in the GOT table. In the same time, the first argument is also sought in our controllable RTCP packet buffer. So first, jump to our controllable RTCP packet buffer, and second, jump to the 16 bytes before the function entry in the GOT table. And third, after adding the 16 to the address and used values as a function pointer to jump, the address happens to be the RTP send RTP packet function address, and with the legal CFI starting instruction. After determining our strategy, we need to arrange the RTP packet buffer in detail to fix the object required by RTP send RTP packet. So first, we need to set up the fields showing the rectangle as illustrated in the image on the lower right. We can set the buffer, the file descriptor, and address fields. However, we cannot currently control the length field with our primitive, as it will receive the value from this +2. Since our primitive can repeatedly be invoked, we are not concerned about the length of a single leak. Because the buffer is controllable, we can simply adjust the buffer offset each time. By repeatedly invoking the primitive, we can leak all of the memory. And unfortunately, when we use our current primitive to enter the function, the second parameter, the length, defaults to be 0. This makes it impossible to perform information leak because it determines the length of the packet. We must ensure that the length parameter is not 0 when calling this function. This means we either need to find a gadget that can control both x0 and x1 register, or we need other operation to set a value in advance so that when we enter this function, the value of x1 is not 0. And in our research, we choose the latter option. Also, after some reverse engineering, we discovered a useful gadget on the lower left. When using the right primitive b, x2 is set to 1. And as a result, when we enter the gadget with x8 register under our control, we can write to an arbitrary address with the value 1. In our case, we set the target address to this +2. And here are the detailed steps. First, control the pointer to point to the packet buffer. And second, point to a controllable buffer. And third, control the PC to point to the gadget. And simultaneously, set the memory at hex 60 to point to this +2 - 8. So after adding 8, it points directly to this +2. And with x2 set to 1, this will write 1 to the memory at this +2. Next, simply set up the file descriptor buffer and socket address to control the victim's packet sending. So for file descriptor, its range is from 0 to hex FF, and it can be guessed through brute force, and it remains constant during the connection. Set buffer to the address you want to leak, and set the socket address to the hex IPs and port. And as shown in the figure, this will let the victims and packets contain the leaked information to the attacker. Since we previously set the packet length to 1, so each leaked data segment is 1 byte long. And by setting buffer points to memcopy in the GOT table of libsamsung video engine, 5 invocations are enough to leak the full address of memcopy. And memcopy is a function in libc. This page shows 5 Wireshark screenshots illustrating the process of our information leak. Once we have the address of memcopy, we can easily obtain the address of libc.so and then get address of system function. And at this step, we have obtained all of the information we want to leak. And the final step is to control the PC to call the system function to execute a command to spawn a reverse shell. And for system function, we need to control the argument A1 as a comment, which must be a string. However, A1 is this plus 1057 in this pattern, meaning it must be a pointer that points to the RTCP packet buffer. Therefore, we cannot directly use the pattern to call the system function. A little adjustment work needs to be made. And this picture shows the similar process of manipulating memory layout and place the data according to offset in the origin primitive and gadget. And you can check it later after this presentation. So the final command, as shown above, uses curl to download a malicious text file and execute it with a APP process to spawn a reverse shell. And so far, we have achieved all of our goals, successfully obtained the shell, and stolen the photos. So congratulations, you have survived from the complicated exploitation, and let's enjoy the demo video. So first, the victim take photos. And the other windows are from hackers. And hackers start the video connection, and the victim receives it. And on the left, the exploit runs for the information leak. And boom, we got the shell. It runs our system, and its ID And this is the photo the victim just took. Oh, thanks. So let's see the photo. And we can further put a window to show you are hacked by our Fante Yang. It's the exploit writer. So here's our takeaways in this topic. First, we introduce a remote attack surface about carrier-based video calling. And secondly, we validate the urgency to enhance the security of this attack surface. And finally, we show an 1K RC exploitation of this attack surface. And we will write a blog about this exploitation and post it later on the Twitter. Remember to follow Fantasian. And we would like to express our special thanks to our colleague Qin Changbo for helping us discover such a potential attack surface in this security research. And our future work will still focus on the researching carrier-based video calling, and due to time limitation, we will not only discuss the vulnerability and exploitation this time. So in fact, different vendors and different implementations of video calling architecture, such as Qualcomm, Samsung, and MediaTek, we have conducted many security research in this area and have submitted a proposal to Black Hat Europe 2024, where we will introduce the program architecture and security issues of its main vendors in carrier-based video calling. And we hope to meet you again at this year's Black Hat Europe. And I'm honored to share our results here, and please feel free to reach out to via the social media. And I'm actively looking for the 2025 summer internship, so thank you.